يأكل حياة معبل يأكل حفاش تسبي سوكل ميتا زماكل يأكل حياة معبل يأكل حفاش تسبي سوكل ميتا زماكل زمان من حال يأكل بمفاق بدليل مننا بدرجة نوفا بحبان وني يأكل دربت زمان من حال نسلو زمان يأكل حياة معبل يأكل حفاش في سوكل ينيرترا زماكل يأكل حياة معبل يأكل حفاش في سوكل ينيرترا زماكل يأكل معبل يتوفر كم البيت مسيحان نتذكالا نبس بمتس الخاص يأكل بهزبي سبب غلطان حقيف كل وحال بخير يأكل حياة معبل يأكل حفاش في سوكل
كبرات تخطاتلتي يأكل دمتي يأكل زينة عالماوي جلوبالي يأكل دمتي لما أنتي قاشا حزنا متينا لنا يوناس وولدو كفل دبلوماسي من قصاصي أكل حبرات من قصات أمريكا يوناس زي فلت دارجا يلن يوني I'm glad to have you here. Thank you for coming. So I would like to briefly tell your background so that everybody may know who is Jonas Woldu, though they know you very well. Yeah. So please introduce yourself in a very brief manner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Jonas Woldu with the Yiakl USA Diplomacy Department. I'm here in Nevada, and pretty much I'm focused on bringing democracy to Eritrea and educating the public. And that's pretty much it for short purposes.
Thank you, Jonas. So, Jonas, لما أنت متجزلو أبزي قربا أوان بحبرات منقصات أمريكا وايت هاوس بتيحو متيو عبيقم نجار حزولنا متيلو مس عبيت سبات تراخيبو متيلو هزب خفلتو زلو كله خحبرنا يو. Again, thank you for coming, Jonas. Jonas, تقرينيا كله perfectly كم يردويو أبتي مقلات perfectly خجالت جن بإنجليش سلا مرت ويسلا زقلو بإنجليش يروح خجالت سألنايو أبدلاي خون كله أنا ري state كجبر إيه بتقرينيا مسترفة يوناس تقرينيا ونندح وسخرد أنا يقولو. So, Jonas, let me go to my questions. Thank you again for coming. And what was your experience in the White House, please?
Yeah, so thanks for giving me the chance to talk about my experience up to DC in the White House. It's the second time we went there. And the whole objective was to be able to connect with some national policy advisor or staffer to be able to give information about our viewpoints, the support that we need in the movement, and just to give them an understanding and so forth. So it didn't go according to plan. I did go inside the White House. I did speak to people that work there. They were very informative and everything like that. And they gave me a heads up of who to connect with. They mentioned to speak to somebody that knows the issue better. And so that's what I ended up doing. So after the White House trip, I went straight to Congressman Brad Sherman's office. And if you guys know who Congressman Brad Sherman is, he's one of the only congressmen who said to sanction Isaias Afwerki directly, impose a luxury tax because of what's happening in northern Ethiopia, in Tigray, because of the forces being out there and things like that. So because he understands our frustration with the Eritrean government, that's the most logical department or congressperson to go to.
Okay, Jonas. My second question is, how did you get invited? Was that your initiation by Yiakl or U.S. initiation? How would this could happen? Kamel, is it
So
happen to
so
you?
yeah, so before I got to, because I started with Yiakl in November 2020 or so. So had you before that, even as far as back as 2008, Kulugizi, I was part of USA Advocacy, Democratic Party, when Obama was running for office. Malatu. So I was big time in advocacy, and I was always volunteering with the Democratic Party. Had you built relationship with Ahiba Bu'u. And because of my relationship that I have over the years, I built relationships in the House, Senate, executive branch departments. So because I have a relationship, I just reached out to my relationship and say, hey, I'd like to come over there and to speak to so and so, and that's pretty much, it's all about relationships. So my diplomacy started way before. So then when I got into Baito Yiakl USA, I reached out to them, told them about my issues. Every time I met like Senator Cory Booker, Congressman Dina Titus, Congresswoman Susie Lee, Cortez Masto, Senator Cortez Masto, Congressman Andre Carson. So these are all people that we just built relationships across the the USA people that I know. So that's how I was able to go there.
Oh, okay. So, as I understand, you actually talked to very important people in the White House. So, what did you present them about the issue of Eritrea, and how did they react for that?
So I ended up going to a policy advisor for Congressman Brad Sherman. And when I went there, I was very, very prepared. I took a logical concept. And the reason why, just to get step back, the reason why I'm explaining this in detail is because I want this to be a learning lesson for anybody in diplomacy. And then I'm not worried about Higduff learning this, understanding this, because it doesn't matter. Because when they come to the same people that we come to, they're going to hear us, they're going to hear them, and they're going to know who's pro-democracy. So it's not a secret. So first, I took their own policy, and then I made sure that I spoke to Eritrean people in the USA to make sure our desires were addressed and it matched their common concerns and common values. So I took an outline, a 8-page outline, and we literally communicated every piece of the outline on the common concerns and common values. And then we went straight to the challenges and the solutions, and we went straight to the ask. So that's pretty much the concept.
Okay. So now, look, I think America, generally United States, knows the problem in Eritrea. Especially, it's very tough to deal with the current government in Eritrea. So already they know the Eritrean government and its system. So once you present our case, did they kind of say, well, they know already the government in Eritrea is very undemocratic?
Okay, so we have to get the misconception out of the way. When you say they know, yeah, one department knows, another department knows, but another department may not know. And there's so many issues going on at the same time. There's competing issues. And so we don't know what they know until you communicate with them. If they research, they'll know more equally. But you don't know what they know until they research. So the people, let's say, for example, in the foreign affair and foreign relations, they may know more than the policy advisor on a particular congressperson. So when I was able to communicate with them, and I didn't go by myself, by the way. I went with Daniel Berhe from New York, and he supports Blue Revolution, and he was very much added value to the process. He's very talented. He can speak Tigrinya, English, and Amharic. And Amharic, and Arabic. And in that Arabic, I'll tell you why that came into handy at a later moment. But the point is, when we were there, the presentation was extremely effective. I would say 9 out of 10 based off feedback. And they were very informed. And one thing that's caught me off guard was when they said I was the first Eritrean justice seeker to speak to them.
Oh.
So that means all the other noise they were hearing was negative, negative, negative. That means Hegdev was attacking them. That's what that means. So, yeah, so the presentation was good, and then we can go over a little bit if you like, but go ahead.
Yeah, before we go in detail, Jonas, so once you get to the White House, so what's the difference between getting to the White House and talking to the State Department? Is there a difference? Are you particularly talk to the State Department, and can you clarify that?
Yeah, so White House obviously is the White House, and there's a working staff at the White House. And if the first time we went there, we were able to connect with some people there, which was great. The second time I was not, unfortunately. But we ended up going to actually the day before we already went to the Department of State. So the White House was on July 2nd. Department of State was July 1st. So Department of State spoke to a couple people. They gave me some insight. And I even shared my presentation that I was going to present the next day, and the feedback was positive on both accounts. And then we're going to build a relation with the Department of State. We already had a relation, but we're about to build a deeper relationship because they need to understand our issues. And then we explained to them about being a registered agent, this and that, forming a registered agent to be recognized as to create an organization that's recognized as a foreign party, things like that. So that's part significant. Next part, the difference between the specific difference, the White House is where that's the executive branch, and then they give instructions to the Department of State.
Okay.
Department of State controls pretty much everything from FBI, Homeland Security, even visas, people coming in and out of the countries, a lot of authority passports, a lot of authorities go through the Department of State. So it's security basically. And then the Congress side, which is I went to the House of Representatives, my shirt right here, they represent the rights of the people, of the Hizbi, of America. And their foreign policy, obviously, they're trying to push America's interest. And then at the end of the day, I'm what they call Eritrean American.
Yes.
And there's a lot of dualities at Abdega. There's people from Sweden, there's people from Italy, there's people from Canada. So everybody has a duality. And then you got to remember, Eritreans are 4 generations deep on the outside because of the oppression, because of the wars, because of the lifestyle. So because of that, it's our duty to recognize Hizbana is an international society, period. There's no way around it. That's what it is. And then you have the diversity in Eritrea, period. So everybody has a voice. So it's our fiduciary duty, because we have the tools and the connections and the relationships to protect the rights of the Hizbi and to protect the sovereignty of Eritrea at the same time. Yeah. So when I went to the state side, when I went to the Senate side, the Senate represents the rights of each American state. So in Eritrea, it would be like Zobas or regions. You would have senators that represent that, and then the Hizbi would be represented by the House. And together, that's the National Assembly. So this logic, this education is something that our Hizbi has to understand globally. So that way we know how to structure ourselves afterwards. Go ahead. Sorry about that. No,
okay. So I got it. Okay, Yoni. Okay, so now we can say you guys are making a relationship with the White House, which is really a good start. But once the Democrats gone, let's say replaced by Republicans, are you going to rebuild that relationship, or how does this affect to the relationship you are making?
Yeah, so the relationship you have in the executive branch is one relationship. Then the relationship you have in the House and the Senate with all the different members is another relationship. And the relationship you have with the Department of State is a different relationship. So at the end of the day, you're supposed to build a relationship. In the unlikely event that Trump becomes president, I should say, I'm gonna make that very clear. Unlikely event. There's Republicans that I've communicated with that I already have a relationship with, and no matter how you look at it, you need relationship of both Democrat and Republican in order to get any kind of policy or any kind of support. So, for example, Senator Todd Young from Indiana. He's a great Republican senator, and they gave me insight on how they were supporting Somaliland at one time. How they said Somaliland is the beacon of Africa because they have elections, they're democratic, and even though they don't recognize them as a country, they do have a diplomatic relation with them. That's an example of a Republican senator. And then, yeah, I can name some more, but I don't want to go too deep into that.
Thank you for your clear answers. Okay, so my next question is, you are not the only one, I think, who visit White House or talk to the State Department. I guess some other elements concern the same, like you. They have agenda of the same nation and they talk probably similar similar issue with the White House. So how does the White House accommodate the same case from different elements? Did they say like bahado kayong dito mo the so-called why don't camp together kind, if that is true?
No. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Let me finish, Yoni. Let's say, for example, Wufui once he visited, probably for the same. Why don't you guys go together as long as we have the same issue? Just for clarification.
Yeah. So let me answer the first part of the question. No one told me bahanta batu or come together, this and that. They pretty much said I asked them, for more connections at a different level, and they pretty much said okay. But the part about Wolfie and I have a good relation, and I reached out to him and so forth, and then we were trying to make something happen literally at the White House, and then the only reason he couldn't make it was because of the schedule conflict, and he's on a specific tour, and that's it, and nothing more, nothing less. So that didn't happen. In regards to the Department of State, I didn't know he was going to go to Department of State personally, but he made it happen, and I respect him for it, and I appreciate that he did it. And then it's definitely confirmed he definitely went. And I know his everybody's a Eritrean justice seeker. They're trying to push the mission across the board, and it all comes down to building relationship. And in the event that he has a solid relationship with them, or we continue our solid relationship, we're all going to be working together, as long as we're focused on the sovereignty of Eritrea and we're focused on the sovereignty of Masal na Eritrea.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, you already mentioned you talked to Brad Sherman.
Yeah.
Did you talk other people in the State Department, and what was their reaction?
Oh, so the reaction is pretty much keep pushing what we're doing. It literally comes to influencing and having influence from the Hizbi. That's a big deal. Yeah, that's the best thing I could say. And I mean, there's more stuff I can't say, but that's the key thing, is pretty much keep working together, and that's what it comes down to.
Okay. So, Yoni, by chance, did you actually mention about the movement of Brigade Nahamadu, what is going on in Europe, in US, and how the brutal reaction or backlashes are doing the government in Eritrea?
Yeah, definitely. So we emphasized what's happening in Israel, and then that sparked a lot of attention. And then they wanted to know more, and then we literally explained how the dictator has influence in the embassy with false asylum seekers and how they're killing people. We even showed them a picture of the people that recently passed away because of it. And then they definitely responded to that, took notes on that, and they have reach with the Israeli community and to get our message across. And so that definitely happened. Yeah, I did. And then I explained to them about the movement being I literally called it Blue Revolution for the movement, emphasized in EU, UK, USA, Canada. And I also emphasized the significance of the blue flag.
Yeah, good. So what do you think we can expect from this dialogue or conversation with the White House?
So from this, what we can expect is the specific policies we asked for. I don't know if I should go against the policies, but before I go there though, what made it unique visit is the fact that I disclosed all the wudivs. I didn't come in there just as Baita Yiakl and so forth, as if we're the only movement. I explained to them there's multiple movements. And I explained to them everybody wants democracy. That's what combines us and so forth. And then they never knew that. And so what's happening is what I recommend for all organizations, it's important that we recognize each other. Because if you're fighting for a true democracy, then you have to recognize each other now. If you're only fighting to get rid of PFDJ, only fighting to get rid of Isaias without recognizing each other, all you're doing is creating another problem for later. So recognizing, working together in diplomacy, media, finance, and so forth, that's where it's got to be at. The whole concept of being what people call government exile is a false notion. Is you're really a foreign party that is trying to get influence over a government in Eritrea. That's what you're trying to do. So when you register with the state, there's no section called government in exile. There's no checkbox that says government in exile. So you're not a government in exile. What you are is a foreign group that's trying to create a movement that's trying to take over the government as peacefully as possible. That's literally the best way I can say it. Through elections, virtually, by phone, however you want to do it, through elections, through media. We have the technology to do it. So when I went in there, what I expect from them is to push some of these policies we were pushing. So some of the policies that we gave them is to, I'll read some of them to you, to encourage the Horn of Africa nations, especially Kenya, to support democracy in Eritrea, to encourage the IGAD, the organization in Africa, eight-member organization, to hold Isaias accountable. And the reason why Isaias can't go to the ICC and all this kind of stuff is because he's not a signer to it. But there's a way to hold him accountable. And obviously to sanction him directly for transnational repression. So if you see a sanction pretty soon, you can see where that triggered from. And then also to encourage or to sanction Gulf countries, China, Iran, Russia, and to stop enriching PFDJ. Those are specific things. And then the response was, well, we already have sanctions on some of them. And I emphasize we need to encourage or sanction all of them so that way they don't get enriched. And so those are some of the things, and also a list of policies. Oh, the church, to protect the Eritrean Orthodox Church, because we already recognized that Hegdef infiltrates the church. We even went as far as the church to protect freedom of religion. So these are the things that can happen here. And obviously, any kind of money support to cut off a 4G, money support, any kind of affiliation with PFDJ to stiffen up the sanctions that's already existing. Now, why are we being so difficult on this? Because there should be no reason why a government from another country should have influence on the Eritrean American diaspora community, or any diaspora community for that matter. So that's the emphasis on it.
Okay, good. About the government in exile, you mentioned it. I was about to ask you some questions. How do the US see that? Can you clarify again if is that possible actually to have a government in exile and get accepted by the US or other countries?
Yeah, so I'm going to change the words that you just said right now and say, can we be registered as a foreign party here in America? The short answer is yes. I've already reached out to leadership of my global Yiakl. I've already reached out to the leadership of my Bata Yiakl. I've already reached out to leadership all the other organizations, Eritrean Political Forces, Eritrea Afar National Congress, and then members of Bright Future, members of the organization called FAST. If I missed any, sorry. So the key is, when we reach out to these people, we explained to them and gave them evidence on how Higda formed the government of Eritrea. Mm-hmm. It started off with EPLF, then went to provisional government, I guess PFDJ you want to call it, and then they stayed since then. And then while they stayed, Mesfin Hagos and them tried to come in and form their own organization called EPLF DP. And then he split up with his partner, and then he came in and created Eritrean People Movement. And then the key is, and then now Mr. Jeek recently came in and created NRC GIE, or I can't remember the acronym. So my point is, all these people, what they have in common, they did the process relationship building with the State Department without educating the public of what they're doing. So we can't make the same mistake. So we got to educate the public on how it's done, and then from there get all the WIDWs, all the civic organization, all the HISB to be able to elect proper leadership and just get registered. And then from there, let the talents come in. The key thing is we have to have safeguards and accountability on how we elect and how we remove. That's the thing. If you don't know how you're going to remove somebody, why would you support them? You need to know how to hold them accountable in order to support somebody. You need to know what your options are, what your rights are. So that's the thing that I wanted to emphasize. So it's called foreign party. It's not called government exile.
Okay. So Jonas, when you say educate the people, do you mean so-called gos, the people tell the people what's going on? Probably educate the people might take long time. So what do you?
No. Education doesn't take a long time nowadays. And here's the reason why. The reason why it doesn't take a long time is because you have YouTube. You have things that they can watch at their own pace, at their own time. You have artificial intelligence. And then you have individuals that can teach a group of people, individuals, collectively. You have Twitter space, you have social media, you have TikTok. Yeah. So there's a lot of ways. Now, can things get lost and misinformed? Absolutely. So what you have to do is be clear-minded, because remember, Hegdef, they're also going to try to make people fight against regions. They're going to try to make people fight against religions. They're going to try to use the Wayane concept. We already know the game. You already know the game. So just be focused. And the way I stay focused is clear. I'm fighting for sovereignty and I'm fighting for a masala.
Yeah.
That's it. And then in order to have that, you have to have a democracy, because how else are you going to protect it without hearing the voices of the Hizbi? Even before I did this, I went into Twitter space and got opinions and feedback from people on Twitter. And then I added some of their thoughts in here. So that's what it means when we say listen to each other. That's what it means. Masuyu. Heji, what we've got to remember is I grew up out here in America, and it's my job to listen and try to understand and try to sympathize and understand what the grievance is. Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead. I finished.
Oh, no. So my point is the people on the outside has to work with the people on the inside in order for the people on the inside to be able to govern themselves.
Yes. Okay. So Jonas, let's say, for example, you mentioned different elements register in the White House, probably for the same reason. But you said people should be behind all this so that it can be fruitful. I mean, the outcome would be nice. But those elements who already registered in the White House, are they okay to work together so that the people can rally on the same point? Because at the moment, I feel like the people is divided and has no idea what's going on. But you are actually educating the people. The people know every detail so that they can have a confidence. So how do you bring this to happen? Can you elaborate that more?
Yes. Okay. First, I think you confused it. They're not registered with the White House. They're registered with the Department of State.
Oh, okay.
You got to separate the two. So Department of State, when one is registered Department of State, that's a good thing. That's the proper way. But to get all the people to work together, it literally comes down to just being honest about the situation. That's what it comes down to. For example, an organization can't be called government in exile. That can't be the name of it, because it's going to confuse the Hizbi completely. If it's a party, then call it a party and give it a name. And I think the short answer to that is we have to sit down in a Zoom setting or face-to-face setting and literally draw out transitional constitution, draw out rules of engagement, draw out rules of National Assembly body, draw it out, because every group should have their own bylaws. Every group should have their own financial budget. If you don't have a financial budget, you should not even be a group. If you have an income statement, balance sheet, then at least you have something you're working with. And if you don't have a big Hizbi, then you should reconsider, okay, can you combine and form a coalition? And so at the end of the day, if you don't have enough people, a coalition is okay. A coalition is great. That's a good concept because then you're working together. But I think the short answer is just getting them together, creating a plan, and then holding elections. And remember, elections can be done virtually. It's not complicated to do elections. And then what happens is when you have elections, you'll be able to have support. And then imagine all the resources combined, they're supporting each other. Because not one Windham can do it on their own. And any Windham that think they can do it on their own, it's a waste of energy. You have to be a coalition. You have to be an alliance. And then once you're in a coalition alliance and you respect the differences, you respect the diversity, now you have a democracy. Now you have a movement.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as you said, well, we know PFDJ is the main problem in kind of making obstacles for the opposition group not to come together, to work together. So what can you advise for your recommendations so that the spice of PFDJ can be, limited or detained from this?
I would just say be clear on your North Star. Be clear on protecting the rights of Eritreans. Be clear on protecting the sovereignty. And then you'll be able to identify who the spies are, who the Higdaf are, and who the, I don't know how you guys say it in Tigrinya, Ankafti?
Ankafato, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you'll be able to know who those are. If you focus on that's, yeah.
So can you say this is the next step for the diplomacy you guys are started? What is the next thing you are planning to do?
Yeah. So the next step is teaching people how to be diplomats is a key thing. And then also forming a party that can represent us internationally, and so that can help the movement create a democracy. With all the WIDIBs, all the civic organizations, all the movements, all of it, with all the people's support.
Okay, Yoni, tell us about John Nuguse. How was the conversation with him?
Yeah, so just to be clear, we didn't speak with Joe Nuguse specifically. We spoke with his staffer. They're very kind, very nice. He doesn't sit on the Foreign Affairs or Foreign Relation Committee. In fact, we met with Congresswoman Ilan Omar's office, and that was a fun conversation. But in regards to Joe Nuguse, we asked if we can have a meeting with him, just to have a one-on-one with him, just to see his true stance, because we haven't seen him in any issues, and which is concerning that we haven't seen him in any issues. So, and then plus he visited Eritrea, so we wanted to know his true stance, what he feels, and even give advice, get recommendations, just get an idea where he's at, especially because we know where his parents are from, this and that. So, but he seems smart publicly. He seems very wise. He was at the I think he was one of the impeachment persons when they were impeaching Trump at one time, a spokesperson. And so I know for a fact he's smart. So we just want to meet up with him and get his point of views. But we definitely connected with his advisors for foreign policy, and we have all their information. And so, yeah.
Okay, good. So, Jonas, as you are part of the diplomacy of Yiakl, is our diplomacy is only limited to the White House or to the U.S. government, or are you planning to engage in diplomatic activities with foreign countries as well, like Europe or Africa?
No, so I would, Taha, he's the head of the global diplomacy for Global Yiakl. So he deals more so outside of USA. And for me, I only focus on USA, which is why I went where I went. So behind the scenes, I am part of their department on global, so I can give ideas, but I'm not going to physically fly out to those countries. But I'll definitely give ideas because my department is USA. One of the encouragements that I provided recently was to get a more understanding of what Italy is doing, because here in the USA, they're not too happy about what Italy is doing enriching PFDJ, while the EU has sanctions on them. And while Isaias is building relations with Russia and China, and it kind of undermines U.S. interests a little bit. And so, you know, it's just one of those things. It's geopolitics. But at the end of the day, what we need to focus on is Hizbi Masal and Eritrea sovereignty. That's what we need to focus on. And I think having PFDJ having power or influence, this and that, prolongs that goal for us.
Okay, so let me bring you back to this the whole opposition story of ours. Why does it takes a very long time to come together, or why do we took us a long time actually also to do kind of diplomatic activities like you guys are doing now? By the way, you guys are doing great job, but why not 3 4 years ago? Why now? Is anything changed?
Yeah, I think so because I've seen it evolve. I remember when I first joined, it was Baita Yiakl and Global Yiakl was separate, and then as time went by, it merged and worked together. Then at one time, I remember we were only focused on recruiting the Yiakl members. Sorry about that. I had a phone call that came in. At one time, they were only focused on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So we were only focused on creating Yiakl members, and then eventually it made sense to, instead of doing that, let's focus on embracing everybody's differences and create coalitions. And so now it's evolving. So now the next step obviously is going to be to vote on leadership on the foreign principal level. That's the next level. So I think the reason why it's taking so long is just knowing each other, education, gaining the skills, gaining the support. And so now we have coalitions, but with non-Eritreans who are helping us in the journalism community, and also in the advocacy community. And so when you have coalitions like that, that's how things can grow. So that's where we are.
Okay. So, Jonas, you also met the mayor of DC, I think. What was your experience on that?
Oh,
what did you discuss?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so the mayor, we didn't meet with the mayor. We met with the chief of staff of the mayor.
Oh, okay.
And then basically, they knew about the issue already because DMV, which they did a great job. I want to give a shout out to them to bring up the issues. And all we did was a follow up. So me and Daniel and I went in there and we explained to them our views, our concerns, the issues, and the reality. And we asked them to look into one legal aspect. And that's where we are right now. So we're awaiting for their response.
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, so PFDJ is planning to have this so-called festival in DC. Did you discuss about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the festivals in DC, there's a legal question that needs to be answered about that. And here's the reality: as a movement, we're not against festivals. The issue is we don't want PFDJ to financially benefit from the festivals. That's the reality of it, because we don't want PFDJ to keep oppressing.
So how do they control that activity from happening, like collecting money, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give the secret out loud. I want to get it.
Yeah, we respect that.
Yeah, I want it to get resolved first. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. So with Brad Sherman, I think that's very important person sanctioning PFDJ. Do you have more to say about him? And
So just to be clear, I spoke to an advisor, not him directly. But from the conversation, here's the reality: the current sanction, is the executive sanction, is on Hidri Trust, Resti Corporation, and then a couple of individual, Abrahakasa, or is it Hagos? Yeah, Hagos Kisha Abrahakasa. Okay, those individuals, and then also PFDJ and EDF specifically, and that's because of what went down in northern Tigray. And that's the current sanction. And then the sanction that can be pushed even more is whatever affects them financially, because they're using money to oppress the people. That's what it comes down to. And then we need to use tools of education to liberate the people. And then how it goes down is how it goes down. So we need to focus on education for the diaspora community and even the people in Eritrea. That's what it comes down to.
Okay. So Jonas, from your all diplomatic activity, can you conclude what can US actually help us with to our movement, generally Yiakl movement, for instance? Did they promise something, at least maybe financially or diplomatically recognition, or do they give you kind of advice to meet Ethiopian president, for example, maybe to broke a kind of discussion with them, kind of?
The U.S. policy is pretty clear. Their policy is they do want democracy in Eritrea. They do want military service. Let me read it. They do want democracy in Eritrea. They do want 18-month military service. They do want regional stability. They want sovereignty respected and protected in Eritrea and also the regions around it. They do want freedom of the press, freedom of religion, and they do want a good trade, mutually beneficial trade and security. That's what they do want. They don't want Americans arrested when they go visit Eritrea. They don't want Americans harassed. And I'm pretty sure none of the other countries want that either. So that's USA strategy. They didn't promise me anything. This is a strategy that they disclosed. So their common values matches. Can you hear me? Oh. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Sorry, it was, I think, interrupted a little bit because of the internet. Yeah, go ahead, Jonas.
Okay, so
we're almost done.
Yeah, so their common values match our desires to create a three-branch constitutional federal democracy, right? That respects human rights, indigenous rights, and so forth. So we have common value on there. So what we need to do is focus more on us, not wait for them, but focusing on us to work together. Deki Hagar and Deki Dege, that's how I like to call it. They're working together, using all our international influence and support, and then also using the knowledge of our Hizbi to protect their rights and to protect Eritrean sovereignty. Is that clear?
Good. Okay. Yoni, thank you so much for the detailed explanation. Is there anything you have in your mind to say more, or you can highlight for the people to understand, or anything we did not mention? You can go ahead and say that if you want.
Yeah, so with the diplomacy, I really want to encourage everybody to get involved, get active, volunteer, and learn about government. And then once you learn about government, I want to encourage everybody to understand that if you want your host country, wherever you live, to help you, you got to see where it's a mutual benefit. Because not one country is going to help another country for just the sake of helping. There's always a trade-off. And you want to make sure you're not selling yourself short. You want to make sure you're not pushing the wrong concept. You want to make sure that you're not pushing your own agenda, but you're pushing whoever sent you over there's views. And so far, all the people that I've been working with and one of the common views that they want is they want justice in Eritrea. They want their rights respected. They want sovereignty. They don't want Hizbi to Hizbi fight each other. They really don't want that. That's the reality of it. They want PFDJ removed. They want to have a government that supports the people. They want to be able to be in freedom. They want to be oppressed by hidden spies or problems like that. They don't want that.
Well, thank you, Jonas. And that's all questions. And nice to have you again. We are expecting you guys to do more very diplomatic activities, and we appreciate for your time or for being with us today, and have a good day. I'm done for today.
Yeah, Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be able to present my my experience and then my encouragement for people to be part of diplomacy. I'm sorry I wasn't able to do it in full 100% Tigrinya, but I'm hoping that most people can translate what I'm saying to each other. And then what I'm hoping for is more talented people to come that can speak Tigrinya and English and do what I do. And I'm happy to encourage them and show them how to do it. It's not a secret for me.
Exactly. I think you well explained everything. Most people understand you, I'm sure, and we keep listening to this conversation. And if it's necessary, we can translate it into Tigrinya if that is important, though. But thank you for your time again. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Enos.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
يعقل حياة معقل يعقل حفاش في سوكل نيتا زماكل يعقل حياة معقل يعقل حفاش في سوكل نيتا زماكل زمان مدحات يعقل بمبار بدليل مننا بدرجة نوفا مرحبا تولي يعقل دانبت زبنا نمدحان نرسلو زمان يعقل حياة معقل يعقل حفاش في سوكل من إريترا زماكل يعقل حياة معقل يعقل حفاش في سوكل من إريترا زماكل يعقل معقل يتوفر كمل بالانتحار متذكالا نبس بالكسر خاص يعقل بالهزبي سبب ألافات حقيق كل محال مرغل يعقل